Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. We are back again today with another video for you, a match preview looking ahead to West Bromwich Albion versus Birmingham, which is an 8 o'clock kickoff in the EFL Championship, kicking off tomorrow night. Yeah, another big game. I mean, we had this debate last year. Is it a derby? Is it a rivalry? Yeah, it's a bit of a rivalry, isn't it? But not massive, not massive in terms of Albion fans' perspectives anyway. But we'll certainly be coming through the details of this clash in this video. We'll be talking about Birmingham City, what they can bring to the table, what they have brought to the table so far this season, and what we can expect from them. We're getting predicted lineups for both sides. A bit of team news from Albion, as there's quite a few injury updates, new signing updates as well to kind of look at. So we'll be taking a peek at those. We'll also be chatting through just general Albion chatter, of course, as we always do here on the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. But before we crack on, and of course score prediction at the end, but before we crack on, make sure you drop your score prediction down below, drop your thoughts ahead of the game, predicted 11. Yeah, it'd be just lovely to hear your interactions, hear what you're thinking. And yeah, of course, it's been a while since we've had a game, so yeah, it'd be nice to hear what you guys are thinking. So drop that down in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe if you are new, and we'll crack on with West Bromwich Albion versus Birmingham City match preview.
You're watching the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. For match previews, match day vlogs, match reactions, and more, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel.
So let's crack on with this match preview, starting off with the opposition, the away side, Birmingham City, who sit 21st in the EFL Championship table after a mixed start to the league season. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a dreadful start by any means. I mean, you ask a lot of people, and they are actually the bookies' favourites to head, or one of the bookies' favourites to head down into League One. So, yeah, they're not doing too badly. They've picked up 2 wins, 2 draws, and 4 losses so far, resulting in 8 points on the table. And as I mentioned, just hovering above that relegation zone at the moment. They've picked up wins against Huddersfield and Preston. Of course, Huddersfield look like they might struggle this season. Preston, of course, they were the first team to score against Preston this season. Of course, they started off the campaign with an incredible defensive record where they hadn't conceded in any of the first, I think it was 6 or 7 games or so. So, yeah, that's a remarkable achievement in itself to score past Preston. Of course, they're looking very tight this season, but not quite scoring as much as perhaps they would like to. I mean, they've had quite a few 0-0 draws, but, Birmingham City managed to score past them and managed to beat them 1-0 in their last game. 2 draws against Luton Town and Watford. I'm sure they'll be pretty pleased to be banged together in the same group. Cardiff, Wigan and Rotherham and Norwich were where their defeats have been this season, though, for Birmingham. So yeah, kind of a mixed start, and as I mentioned, they're not really anybody's favourites to sort of stay above the drop zone this season. They look pretty nailed on to go down in a lot of people's eyes, which I think is interesting. They're managed by John Eustace, who of course is a former QPR coach. I think he was interim manager there for a little while. Those local to Kidderminster Harriers, as I'm sure a lot of Albion fans will know that he was the manager of Kidderminster Harriers for a few years. Quite a well-regarded coach, to be honest. I think quite a few respect him in the game, and I think it's clear to see that he's got a lot of good coaching qualities. And of course, trying to translate that into management can be a lot easier said than done. But I think he's doing all right so far at Birmingham. I mean, as I said, he's got that difficult job now of keeping them above the drop zone. They've brought in some quality players, if I have to be honest, over the summer window with some good championship signings. So yeah, maybe so. Maybe they'll bring in some that they've brought in some good names, and maybe that'll help them a little bit more and help ease a bit of pressure on Eustace. But certainly so far, he doesn't look to be doing too bad of a job, especially as as I said, Birmingham. A lot of people saying that they were going to go down this season, and at the moment hovering above that relegation zone. I think that's ideally where he would like to be at the end of the season. So yeah, top scorer is Scott Hogan so far with 2 goals. Of course, fairly sort of low scoring side if we have to be honest. Top assists, Jordan Graham, Junior Bukuna and Scott Hogan all on 1 assist in the Blues ranks. So yeah, as I mentioned, they're not doing too well so far. Not doing too well so far, but kind of keeping above that relegation zone is a bit of their aim this season, if we have to be completely honest. I mean, I look at it and I think, is this game a rivalry? And I mean, certainly Birmingham treated it so last season when we played them under Steve Bruce, a 1-0 loss. I think it was a Lyle Taylor penalty that was was the one scored for the Blues. And yeah, St Andrews, I seem to remember that quite vividly. So yeah, I think they really did turn it into a bit of a derby. Of course, they were fighting for the points down the bottom. We were kind of in a real lull. I think we'd just come off beating somebody like Fulham or Bournemouth, and I think we were coming in at high spirits. And once again, the squad of 21-22 kind of let us down in that manner. So yeah, I remember they did kind of turn it into a bit of a scrappy affair. Lots of fouls, lots of big challenges, lots of physicality, and I think that's maybe what they might try to do again here. And of course, they look a little bit more organised at the back under the new coach Eustace, as I said, who's got some good coaching qualities. So that'll be interesting. But let's talk predicted lineup for Birmingham. Of course, just sort of going off what their last game meant for them. John Ruddy in goal, Dion Sanderson and Mark Roberts alongside Trusty, who's of course on loan from Arsenal in that back three. 3-5-2 seems to be the way for John Eustace so far. Maxim Collan in that right wing back spot with Christian Bielik, of course, on loan from Derby County, player that I think Albion have been a little bit linked with since Derby's relegation. I think I remember seeing a few links. Jordan James, young academy player, alongside Juninho Bakuna in the midfield three, and then Jordan Graham out on the left hand side, and then a front two of Troy Deeney and Scott Hogan to boot. Of course, two players who've been with very experienced in the Championship, know what they're doing in terms of Championship goal scoring, but can they do it for Birmingham this season? We will have to see. But yeah, that's all you need to know about Birmingham City ahead of Wednesday's clash. But let's move on to Albion. 16th in the EFL Championship, only a point above Birmingham City. I mean, there's 5 places separating ourselves and Birmingham, but only a point. 1 win, 6 draws and a loss, with 9 points on the table for Albion so far. It's not going all too well, if we have to be honest from an Albion perspective, but I suppose that the XG charts, the expected points charts would have us top of the league if you pay any attention to that kind of stuff. I've seen the performances have been good and the performances have been warranting of wins, but not quite of sticking the ball in the back of the net and keeping the ball out early doors, to be honest. I mean, sort of talking points I had written down was kind of trying to shut out the opposition in those first sort of 20 minutes or so. We can't seem to do it. I mean, we conceded first. I think I looked it up the other day. I think it's 6 out of 8 of the Championship clashes we've had so far this season, which I think is awful. You've got to be able to. I know we're kind of feeling our way into games by the looks of things, and first 30 minutes or so has been a bit of a lull for us so far this season. But we've got, at least if we're going to do that, we need to stop the opposition scoring first, because that's kind of where our problems start when we have to chase a goal down. And I think with the sort of blunt strike force at the moment, as I suppose we've got without Daryl DK, I think that we've got to kind of start shutting out the opposition to kind of relieve a bit of pressure on that front line. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see whether we can do that, whether we can actually go ahead first, or at least stop the opposition from going ahead first. Let's talk team news, though. I mean, there's quite a few injury updates. Of course, 2 new signings coming in. Eric Peters, there'll be hopefully a video over the coming days about him. He's ready as soon as possible after keeping himself in extremely good shape, according to Steve Bruce, over the summer. Tom Rogic comes in possibly after the international break, after he's got a bit of work to do on his fitness since leaving Celtic. Martin Kelly, of course, another free agent bought in just before the window ended. A couple of weeks for him seems to be likely for his return to football, really. Shemi Ajayi, an operation for him seems to be what's happened, and 6 weeks until he'll be back on the field. Kean Bryan training with the team next week, which should be interesting. And of course, Daryl DK, the big injury news, I think, is what we want to see from Daryl DK. We want to see him back as soon as possible. He's ahead of on schedule, ahead of coming back over the next sort of a couple of months maybe or so, I suppose. He's hoping to be back for the World Cup, but we'll certainly see about that. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how we kind of get on with these new signings. Tom Rogic seems if you haven't watched the video on him on the channel already, make sure you do. He'll be an interesting signing. Celtic fans seem to love him. I've seen a few on the comments, and Australian fans as well. Seeing a lot of Aussies on the last video talking about his signing, talking about how good he possibly could be. So yeah, it's great to hear a lot of those thoughts and a lot of insights into his play style and what he can bring to the team. So yeah, Eric Peters as well, good, hard and professional. Just a little word on him before we put a video out, hopefully over the next few days as I said, good, hard and professional, clearly kept himself in extremely good physical condition, so I think that will help him, slotting straight into the side and hopefully coming in and doing his bit. So, yeah, I think injury-wise, we're all right. I mean, there's a few additions in there. You want Shemi Ajayi back as soon as possible. You want all of them back, really, but Daryl DK as well. You want that striker in there to float those crosses in that we seem to be doing. So I think that'll be beneficial for Albion to have him back as soon as possible. But let's talk predicted 11. Here's what I'd go for, I think, if we were to talk about a lineup. David Button in goal, a back four of Darnell Furlong, Dara O'Shea and Carl Bartley, of course, replacing the injured Semi Ajayi for the time being. Connor Townsend at left back, although I've got a feeling that Eric Peters may be sort of called upon quite soon to replace him. Two centre midfielders, Okay Kushlu and Jason Malumbi. The wide players, Grady Diangana and Jed Wallace, with number 10, John Swift. And then I'd like to see Brandon Thomas Asante come in, if I have to be honest. I'd like to see him come and give it a go, leading the line. Maybe you kind of stretch your substitute appearances, that, a bit of logic would say maybe half an hour after he was only given 20 minutes last time. But the part of me is like, I want to give him a little bit of a run out. I want to give him the chance to stretch the opposition line. So, yeah, I'd like to see him given a chance. I mean, Grant, I've not been too impressed with his overall play this season, despite the fact he's got those couple of goals to his few goals to his name. I think it's 3 so far for him. But I'd like to see Thomas Asante given a little try, trying to stretch that opposition back line. My prediction, I think, is a 1-0 Albion win. I think it'll be quite late. I wonder who might be on the score sheet for Albion, maybe Thomas Asante again. But yeah, it would be nice to see how we get on, to be honest. The derby, rivalry game, whatever you want to call it. Drop your thoughts on that below and drop your score predictions. But yeah, that's all we've got time for in this match preview. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure having you along. And yeah, make sure you subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.